Hello. For tonight's Grizzly Tale, I'm going to read you a story from Fearsome Tales for Fiendish Kids. These are cautionary tales that I wrote for lovers of squeam. Tonight's story is called
Fat Boy with a Trumpet, a true story. Johnny Bullneck was a bully. If he came up to you in the playground and asked you who your favourite football team was, you had to say Millwall, else he'd twist your arm up your back and dead leg you. He never brought his own rulers or pencils or rubbers into school, because there were always 60 smaller boys who'd hand him theirs without being asked twice. And if he was hungry, he just went through your pockets for sweets, while his gang pinned your arms to your side and tweaked your ears like they were podding peas from a shell. "Here, Miles." "Who, me?" "Yeah, you. There's nobody else as ugly, is there?" Collapse of gang into hysterics. "I want a tin of spotted paint. Get me some." "Spotted paint, you say?" "Yeah, it must be red spots." "Red spotted paint, right. 3 gallons by lunchtime, all right." 3 gallons of red spotted paint by lunchtime. Should be okay, yeah. Gang now busting their trouser buttons with sycophantic giggling. "Oh, and a left-handed screwdriver." Miles sneaked out of school before lunch and was never seen again. Rumour has it he couldn't find the paint and the screwdriver, so didn't dare come back. He made his parents move up north to Darlington, where he started at a new school under an assumed name. Sheila Gish was what we heard. Johnny was huge, awkward, and 12 years old. Short-haired, flat-footed, white-fleshed and pudgy, because he snatched everyone else's food at lunch and never left the table before he guzzled at least 12 helpings. He hated fat people, though, which was really weird because he was one himself. Someone once said that he came from a broken home, but if he did, it was only because he'd broken it. He never smiled. It was like he was born sneering, like he came out of his mum complaining to the doctor that the light was too bright, and he'd bash the doctor if he didn't dim it. And because he never smiled, none of us knew if we were doing right by him or simply getting him more annoyed. Let's face it, the only time you knew where you stood with Johnny Bullneck was when he was duffing you up. He was a head case, he was dangerous to know, and he always wanted whatever it was you'd got. With grown-ups, though, Johnny Bullneck was a coward. If a teacher shouted at him, or the lollipop lady outside our school scolded him for running into the road, he'd burst into tears. It seemed like he was king of the world when he was the biggest, but all mouth and no trousers when the tables were reversed. We all hated him, of course, but only in secret. It wouldn't have done the shape of our noses much good to tell him to his face. We hated him for the way he couldn't see beyond a person's size or the way they looked. We hated him for giving us big yellow bruises that hurt when you pressed them, and for being a jerk, and for turning every sunny day into a thunderstorm. One day, a new boy joined our class. Timothy, his name was. A shy bloke with little round metal-framed glasses, who looked at his shoes all day and spoke to the teacher through the top of his head. He was different, though. He was huge, big bones, he said, and he played the trumpet. Boy, could he play the trumpet. He did Yankee Doodle Went to Town for us in the playground, and it sounded just like it had come off a record. Anyway, Johnny took one look at this new boy and earmarked him for grief. It was partly because Timothy was fat, but mainly because he was new, and Johnny had to teach him who was boss. It was at first break that Johnny trapped Timothy round the back of the cricket pavilion. Actually, it was a small garden hut where the groundsman made his tea, but the headmaster said it was better for the school's image if we called it a pavilion, and asked him if he brought his photo with him. "What photo?" mumbled Timothy. "Your medical photo," said Johnny with a cocky shake of his head that signalled a spontaneous chorus of "Yeah, your medical photo" from his gang. "No," said Timothy. "Well, nobody told me." "Nobody told you?" mimicked Johnny. "Oh, that's terrible, because you see, by law, if you don't have one on your first day, they expel you." "Really?" Timothy was curled up against the back wall of the shed, protecting himself from he didn't know what. "I'll do you a favour," said Johnny, "because I can see that you and me are going to be friends. I've got a camera with me, right? I'll take your photo now, save you getting into trouble later." Timothy shook his head, meaning no thanks, but Johnny wasn't trying to be nice. "Take your clothes off and stand over there on the cricket pitch," he said. And when Timothy didn't move, he said it again, only this time he stepped right up close and whispered it in Timothy's ear and didn't step back until Timothy had done as he was told. He was huddled there, clutching his trumpet case, all plumply pink and goosebumped like a plucked turkey, while Johnny's gang roared with laughter and pointed at his stomach. Then Johnny looked at his camera and said, "Oh, whoops! I seem to have forgotten to put a film in," just as the school bell rang. The gang ran off, but not before Johnny had thrown Timothy's clothes up onto the roof of the shed, so that when the headmaster looked out of his window to check that everyone was in from break, he got the shock of his life. Timothy got 500 lines. "I must not remove my clothes on top of the cricket pavilion again. It is an unpleasant sight that distracts other pupils from their academic pursuits." The medical photo prank was just Johnny's way of warming up. At lunchtime he pushed all the other kids off Timothy's table so that he and his gang could sit next to him. "You should be on a diet," he said, stealing 2 potatoes off Timothy's plate. "A great big tub of lard like you doesn't want to be eating food. Slimming pills is what you need, or a dose of this." Johnny put a bar of chocolate down on the table. "Go on, eat it. It's lovely." "It's a laxative," muttered Timothy. "It's chocolate, you bozo. I thought fat boys liked chocolate." "It'll make me ill." "It'll make you thin," sneered Johnny, poking Timothy with a fork. "Now come along, baby. Eat it all up like Mummy says." The gang gagged with glee at Johnny's joke and spluttered their lunch all over their plates. Timothy was forced to eat the entire bar and then to lick the silver wrapper clean. The laxative took a grip on Timothy's belly right in the middle of double maths. He screamed out of the room with a face as red as a baboon's bum and didn't come back for a week. When he did, Johnny was waiting for him. He grabbed Timothy's glasses as he walked through the school gates and put them on. "Guess who I am?" he said, puffing out his cheeks and walking round stiff-limbed like the Michelin Man. The gang was in stitches as Johnny lay on his back and kicked his legs in the air. "Oh, help! I can't get up!" he cried, playing the stranded turtle. Timothy was crying. "Give them back," he said. "I can't see a thing without my glasses." Johnny jumped to his feet. "Oh, is the little baby all upset?" he mocked. "Is little baby as blind as a bat without his spectacles? Oh, come and get them then, Specky. If you can find them, that is." Then Johnny ran off to the other side of the playground while the gang shoved Timothy after him. But Timothy couldn't see where he was going, and the gang kept tripping him up so that he skidded over the concrete and cut his knees and elbows to shreds. Don't let go of your trumpet, will you, Four Eyes? Taunted Johnny as he dangled the glasses just out of Timothy's reach. What's it like down there in the dark? The rest of us boys should have gone in to help, but you know what it's like when you're scared. No one wants to become the next victim. It took a girl called Tina to stop Johnny's vicious game. She went right up to him and shouted in his face, "You're a horrible brute," she hollowed. "What harm's he ever done to you? Give him his glasses back." This gave Johnny a new line of attack. "You great fat wimp," he snarled at Timothy, who was curled up on the ground at Johnny's feet. "Got to get a girl to do your fighting for you now, you pathetic porky. I could smash your glasses right now, and there's nothing you could do about it." But Tina was a girl of action as well as of words, and she snatched the glasses out of Johnny's hands before he could carry out his threat. "Why don't you grow up, Johnny Bullneck?" she said, and all the other girls clapped her. You could see that Johnny was furious. He was breathing heavily and his mouth had tightened like a punctured rubber ring. Tina had just made him look weak in front of the rest of the school, and he had to do something quick to recover his power base. "Right," he shouted. "If I can't have your glasses, then I'll have your trumpet instead." But as he grabbed Timothy's trumpet case and gave it an almighty heave, something extraordinary happened. Timothy found a huge voice from deep in his boots that had us all reeling from shock. He stood up and bellowed, "No! You can't have my trumpet!" and snatched it back. Johnny turned white. Whether with fear or fury, none of us knew, but he let go of the case just the same. Then they just stood there, squared off like two gunfighters, and Timothy looked about 12 feet tall, while Johnny looked like a midget. I guess it was then that we knew that Johnny had met his match, that someday soon he'd get what was coming to him, but never in a million years could we have guessed how it would finally happen. It was a week later. Johnny had been brooding for days like a fighting dog on a short leash, plotting his cowardly revenge on Timothy. He got his chance after school one Friday night. Timothy used to walk home across the common along the path behind the school cricket nets. Johnny and his mates had been given permission to use the nets after school by Sergeant, the groundsman. At 4 o'clock, Johnny went to the pavilion to get a cricket bat and 6 balls. "What's with the sudden interest in cricket, Bullneck?" asked Sergeant as he rummaged around in the cricket bag for a set of stumps. "I've never seen you play before." "Well, I've got to start sometime," said Johnny. "Who knows, I might be the answer to England's prayers." "Yeah, a likely story," replied Sergeant. "There's a storm brewing out there. If it starts to rain, I want this equipment undercover sharpish, you understand? You leave it out over the weekend and I'll have your guts for garters." Johnny nodded, but he wasn't listening. He was slipping the length of rope that Sergeant used to mark out the batting crease into his blazer pocket. Outside, the sky was black. Thunderclouds rolled overhead like iodine cotton wool. Johnny and his gang made their way over to the nets as the first drops of rain exploded on their skin, warm and heavy. A clap of thunder rumbled in the distance as they set up the stumps, before hiding behind the big tree on the path from where they would spring their ambush. Timothy left the school building with his trumpet tucked safely underneath his arm. The last week had been better since Johnny had stopped picking on him. He walked past the cricket pavilion, along the path in front of the sixth form centre, and struck out across the playing fields towards the common. The rain was falling more heavily as he drew level with the nets. He noticed the stumps set up for a game that nobody was playing, but he was getting soaked and didn't stop to wonder why. The clouds clashed above his head with a shattering boom as he reached the path. The trees acted like a huge umbrella, and he slowed down, savouring the dry, musty smell that steamed off the leaves. Suddenly, the air was filled with shouting, and shadowy figures fell on him from all sides. They grabbed him, knocking his trumpet to the ground. A hand snatched off his glasses, tearing the metal springs from behind his ears. He was caught like a bear in a trap, outnumbered and overpowered. His hands were tied behind his back, and his ankles hobbled with sergeant's rope. He was rolled through the mud and dragged to his feet in front of the stumps at the far end of the net. "You're going to regret you ever crossed swords with me," spat Johnny Bullneck. Timothy was petrified. "I need my glasses," he said. "Oh, but you can't bat in glasses, Timothy. Think how dangerous it would be if a ball smashed into your eye. Don't worry, I'll wear them for safe keeping." Johnny was playing it dead cool, toying with his victim like all bullies do when they've got the upper hand. "Where's my trumpet?" "Safe as houses," said Johnny, putting the brass instrument in his right hand. A streak of lightning lit up the sky over the common as the rain pinpricked Timothy's frightened face. "Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to bowl at you, Timothy." "But I need a bat and pads and gloves." "Why?" Or the balls will hit me," quaked Timothy. "Well, I sincerely hope so," taunted Johnny. "That's why I've gone to the trouble of tying you up." The thunder crashed above their heads like cannons of war and drove the rain down like bullets from a Gatling gun. "Have fun, my son, duck and weave," laughed Johnny, walking back up the net to the bowling end. Timothy slipped on the muddy ground as he tried to push his way out through the netting. "Oh, by the way," called Johnny, "I thought I'd play you a little tune on the trumpet while my friends are bowling. Any requests?" "Don't do this," wailed Timothy. "Please." "Ah, I don't know that one," snickered Johnny, much to his gang's amusement. "I thought I'd do I Don't Like Cricket, if it's all the same to you." And with that, Johnny gave the signal to his bowlers to start bowling, whilst he put the trumpet to his lips to start trumpeting. There was a crack of thunder from the sky, and a shaft of lightning arrowed down towards the brass conductor. There was a blue flash, a puff of smoke, and Johnny Bullneck's shrill squeak of surprise. When Timothy dared to look up, rain had stopped play without a single ball being bowled. He could just make out the hazy figures of Johnny's gang as they ran screaming across the playing fields towards the school. At the end of the net lay the frizzy-haired figure of Johnny Bullneck, smouldering gently like a day-old bonfire. In his hands, a blackened trumpet. Around his eyes, 2 crimson rings where Timothy's glasses had burnt into his flesh. And that's how Johnny Bullneck got fried. The lightning had shot down the trumpet and looped the loop round Timothy's metal-framed glasses. I remember the headmaster telling us all about it at assembly on Monday morning, but I don't recall a single person crying. Well, it's not as if it was a particularly painful way to go, was it? I mean, it was all over in a flash. More's the pity.